one is going to be very fascinating, and I think we all need to look at the larger picture here because right now there is a story about Nancy talking about the Affordable Care Act. Today marks 15 years since the Affordable Care Act was signed into law. LAW, and she wants to celebrate it with you guys. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, remember Nancy Pelosi, Emperor Palpatine is before you all.
Today marks the 15th anniversary of the passage of the Affordable Care Act. As we celebrate it, I wanted to look back at some of the photos and tell some of the story of what happened that eventful day. We started our procession to the floor of the House. There were many people there screaming and yelling at us in a very hateful way who were opposed to the Affordable Care Act. They even spat on John Lewis. John said it was...
They even spat on John Lewis. He got that loogie, like that episode of Seinfeld. When Kramer got hit with a spit, he says, "I'm hit."
It's one of the worst days since his march on Selma so many years before. After the vote, we had many thank yous to make. One was first to the staff who worked so hard to make this day possible. Wendell Primus is right there in the lead in the photo, who was indispensable, but so were all the others as well. And next, I went into the room to thank the members who had worked so hard and participated in writing the legislation, fighting for the legislation, making the case. The next day, we had the enrollment ceremony.
Yeah, Freddie G says, I got Newman too. Yes, Newman got hit on the arm.
And again, those who were so instrumental in passing the legislation are there with me as I signed the bill. It's a big bill, as you can see in this box. Joe Biden signed it as president of the Senate, and then to Barack Obama, the inspiration of all of this. 2 days later, we're at the White House with President Obama signing the bill.
This is the Affordable Care Act, and let me be clear, no Medicare for all, no public option. None of you folks are going to get it, but we politicians back here, with my good friend Joe, we're going to make sure any attempt for Medicare for all is going to be flushed down the toilet. This is where it starts. Don't ask about the Affordable Care Act. Don't ask about how the Affordable Care Act is really from the Heritage Foundation. The Affordable Care Act was from Mitt Romney. And it's true. It's Mitt Romney's idea. It's from the Heritage Foundation. It's from a Republican think tank. So Obamacare isn't some liberal Democrat vision. All it is a click, copy, paste of notes from the Heritage Foundation. Nobody tell that to vote blue no matter who, people.
To law. I'm so glad that Harry Reid is prominent in the picture because he certainly was very prominent in passing the legislation through the Senate. The president is very happy. On the day we passed the bill in the House, he called me that night and said, I'm happier than I was the day I was elected president of the United States.
Bullshit.
I said, well, Mr. President, if you were not elected president of the United States, we would not have the legislation. So let's say that was a very happy day for our country. Kathleen Sebelius, who then was the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and I asked the president if he would take a picture with the Trinity Sisters. Kathleen and I had attended Trinity College, and the president...
Yes, and this is a whole sit-down of a lady acting all senile, okay? Listen, she had her time in the sun, but she, like everything, her time is up. But here's the thing, all right? Medicare for all, Nancy Pelosi was never a fan of it. So this whole thing about, today marks 15 years of the Affordable Care Act. Well, boo-hoo-hoo, ha-ha-ha. People are still struggling with medical debt. I mean, Nancy Pelosi never gave a damn about Medicare for all. And she doesn't give a damn about the Affordable Care Act, because look.
I'm not a big fan of Medicare for all. I mean, I welcome the debate. I think that we should have health care for all. I think that the Affordable Care benefit is better than the Medicare benefit. But we have invited advocates for it to testify in Congress, in the Ways and Means Committee, in the Budget Committee, in the Rules Committee, being respectful of the point of view. But it is expensive. Who pays is very important. What are the benefits that come in there? So I would think that hopefully, as we emerge into the election year, the mantra will be more health care for all Americans, because there is a comfort level that some people have with their current private insurance that they have. And if that is to be phased out, let's talk about it, but let's not just have one bill that would do that.
Yeah, brilliant move there, Nancy. Brilliant move indeed. Because when we did ask for power, when we did ask for help, for forced to vote, what did Nancy do? She didn't do anything because she was protected by the squad.
Back in 2020, when Nancy Pelosi was in the similar situation as Kevin McCarthy is in now, she wanted to be speaker. The House majority that she had was a very small one. She could afford almost no defections. And so for once, the squad had real leverage, real power. If they didn't vote for Pelosi, she wasn't going to be speaker. Just like these holdouts in the House Republican caucus know, if they don't vote for Kevin McCarthy, he's not going to be speaker. That's the reality. And as a result, there was a campaign created by Jimmy Dore and other left-wing activists called Force the Vote, in which all they did was ask the squad not to refuse to vote for Pelosi, but to demand to extract the concession that in exchange for their vote for Pelosi, Pelosi would agree to bring to the floor the bill that leftist activists and the squad claim is the most important one for them, which is Medicare for All. A bill that it would ensure that Medicare would essentially be expanded so it doesn't just cover elderly citizens, but all Americans, to ensure that every American has access to health care. That is and has long been a top priority of left-wing political activism in the United States. And even if the bill were to fail, as it probably would, it would at least force Democrats to go on record about whether which of them supported this and which of them opposed it. And sometimes losing is the first step on the road to victory. So all they did was say to the squad, use your leverage. Don't give Nancy Pelosi your vote for free in exchange for nothing. At least get a House vote on Medicare for All,
and which they didn't. See, force to vote was a DSA plan. All right, it's a tactic from the Democratic Socialists of America. So while yesterday marks the 15 years of the Affordable Care Act, I mean, folks, let's go ahead and ask ourselves a serious question: how's health care, Medicare, Medicaid, treating your medical bills? How is it like now, 15 years after the Affordable Care Act? Type 1 for, oh, kid, it's great, I'm getting by. Type 2, no, it's a struggle, and I'm afraid. I wonder how many 2s will be in the chat. I'm not saying 2 is the correct answer, but after all the times covering Medicare for All stories or cancer stories or anything like that, I notice in my live stream chat, a lot of you are sharing with me horrific, gut-wrenching stories that I don't wish on anybody. Because all the stories are the same. We're on our own, and the healthcare insurance industry doesn't give a damn about us. But I truly do wonder, how many 2s will be in the chat.
Most important priority you told us you had. And obviously, needless to say, unlike the Republican holdouts, the squad refused to anger or defy Nancy Pelosi. They famously or notoriously posed with her on the cover of Vogue or one of those magazines. And then ultimately, they ended up rejecting left-wing calls, as you see here from the Business Insider headline. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez rejects left-wing calls to force Pelosi to hold a Medicare for All vote in exchange for her vote for the speaker.
Yes, and when we asked the Democrats to fight, they didn't. They don't know how to fight. I mean, you even got Ro Khanna in 20 seconds explaining their entire tactics, and this was all last year.
What if Nancy Pelosi had done that? What if we had said, unless you give us Medicare for All, unless you give us Green New Deal, President Trump, we're not going to raise the debt ceiling. Of course we don't do that because we're responsible, because we believe in compromise when it comes to the functioning of the government. They're acting irresponsible.
And a lot of your base probably would like it if y'all had done that. I mean,
Yeah. Well, guess what? When Matt Gaetz proved that force to vote works, it earned the support of his base. Force to vote works, and it took a conservative Republican, former Representative Matt Gaetz, to show that force to vote tactic works. If you're DSA, if you're the vote blue no matter who crowd, if you're TYT, if you're majority report, if you're AOC and everybody else that was against Jimmy Dore and forced to vote, you must be eating that crow. Because here you have Nancy supporting the Affordable Care Act, but there's no public option in it. I'm not saying the Affordable Care Act would have been better with a public option, but you know what? I mean, my goodness, how come we haven't got this stuff? It's because people like Nancy Pelosi, they have gold-plated healthcare. These politicians all have gold-plated healthcare. Forced to vote. Yes. Would it have failed? Probably. But it would have shined a light on these politicians who would be heartless enough to deny Medicare for all at the height of a pandemic. And before anyone says, well, the Republicans would have taken the seat. No, that's not what happened. You morons. Look at what Matt Gaetz did. All right? The only way somebody becomes Speaker of the House is the whole party votes. So that would mean if the Democrats wanted to take that seat when Matt Gaetz was doing forced vote, Republicans would have to cross the line and say, okay, we're going to support Hakeem Jeffries. The Republican Party was never going to do that. It would have been a stalemate, which is why forced to vote, it showed over and over again until Matt Gaetz got what he wanted. Then did he vote for the next Republican speaker. That's what he did. 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 And that's what had happened for Nancy Pelosi. That's if the squad actually was a squad. They never were. So, hey, folks, 15 years of the Affordable Care Act. How do you feel about it? Don't hold back in the comments section. I'll try and read them all.